Hey everybody, welcome back to our month on meaning. This is, according to Viktor Frankl, the author of Man's Search for Meaning, really the primary motivation of every individual in life. When we talk about meaning, there's really two ways that we can approach it. We can approach it kind of philosophically when we're looking for what is the meaning of life. And we can approach it kind of psychologically when we're trying to understand how to create or find meaningfulness within our lives. Today, I want to introduce the work we're going to do on the more philosophical question of the meaning of life. Researchers Raker and Wong in 1988 created a three-dimensional model for looking at meaning. For them, meaning involved coherence, or basically making sense of life. It also involved an aspect of significance, or making sure that life really mattered. And it also included an aspect of purpose, which of course we looked at last month. There are a couple of distinct life events that tend to prompt this quest for meaning. The first is our identity formation that we really start to get into in adolescence. We might start this quest for the meaning of life much earlier in our childhood if, for instance, we're faced with a significant loss like the death of a loved one. But typically it begins when we start our identity formation in adolescence. And of course, as we know from our month on purpose, what we're doing is we're trying out our values and trying on and testing out the beliefs of those who are in authority, like our parents and our teachers. And we start to adopt our own beliefs as well as those of our peers. What we're really looking for at this time is where we fit into the entire scheme of things and who we are and why we're here. Once we clear adolescence, most adults get caught up on the hedonic cycle, where we're pursuing one pleasure after another, and we don't really give much thought to the meaning of life until something goes wrong. This life crisis is usually associated with a great sense of loss, such as a death or a serious illness or the loss of an identity-defining job. It can be quite an intangible and complex loss. And of course, we all know that this life crisis can happen when good things happen. We all have heard the anecdotes of the person who has achieved their epitome of their career. They have the spouse, or maybe the second spouse. They have the children. They have the house, and probably the second house. They have their fancy car and their luxurious holidays. But then they stop and say, isn't there more to life than this? And it's quite a crisis because what they've lost is their sense that they knew what would make them happy. And so whether it's a loss that we normally recognize or one of these moments of crisis when we've achieved everything we want and yet we're still empty and feeling that nothingness, this is when we begin a quest again for the meaning of life. In fact, even though we might live in a society that is opening up, the pandemic continues to rage across the world and may be impacting people that we know and love. And of course, we may see a resurgence of the pandemic again. There is a lot of anxiety as we begin to open up, and I think there is a lot of complex loss that we might not yet know how to deal with. So we've had quite possibly individual losses, but we've also had collective losses, like our loss in faith in our institutions. We've lost faith in our neighboring countries, and we've also lost faith in our neighbors next door. Like any crisis of meaning, these losses can bring about a loss of understanding of where we fit into the world, of who we are, or of the rules under which we should be living. In fact, it may even, for those who are people of faith, challenge their belief in a loving God. And so whether we define it as such or not, many of us are or will be experiencing a crisis of meaning in the coming months. No matter how you look at it, this crisis of meaning is distressing. Some people find meaning in their spiritual tradition, but if that's been called into question, that is also distressing. Other places we can look for meaning are found in philosophy, in the arts, in literature, and in science. One of my favorite playwrights is John Patrick Shanley, and he wrote a stinker of a movie. It is called Joe versus the Volcano, and it is really a hero's journey on the quest for meaning. I encourage you, before next time, to start looking for some of these heroes' journeys. I recommend you might start with The Odyssey by Homer or Ulysses by James Joyce. If you like films, then Thelma and Louise is, although a buddy tale, also, in my opinion, a quest for meaning. And of course, if you want to try it out, Joe versus the Volcano is always there. Next time, we will look at all of the elements of a hero's journey and see how we can safely embark on our own quest for the meaning of life. If you like this video and you want to see more in this series of meaning, then click subscribe. Or if you wait to the end, you'll see the entire playlist on purpose and meaning. For what are you most grateful today?